Hello strangers and story lovers, and welcome to my lab. Today we're talking about One Dark Throne by Kendare Blake. It's the book 2 from the series that started with 3 Dark Crowns, which I really enjoyed, and so I read book 2, still enjoyed it. So full disclosure, I've already started reading book 3 at this point because I, had a train trip. So I had lots of time and I did not want to be bored. So I started book 3 despite not having done this review. So I have seen a few things, but not much. It's like less than 100 pages, so it's not that bad. But I did want to flag it. But straight away, there is just one thing that I want to say about book 2. Where's the time? Well, like, why do we not get the book number on the book anymore? Why do I have to go to Wikipedia to check every time what the order is? Like, just please, book designers, add the number. It's not much, but it does change a lot. So that nitpick aside, I generally did like book 2 quite a lot. Probably more than book 1, which I already liked a lot. But yeah, I just felt like it had a bit more actions. I grew to learn the characters more, grew to like some of them a bit more. Some of them. But yeah, no point in dwelling on this. Let's just crack on with the story. Quick recap of book 1 for those who don't remember and haven't read. Why haven't you? So the story takes place on the island of Fenburn, which is a queendom where every time the queen gives birth to triplets, 3 girls, each with a different power, and they have to duel it out when they turn 16 to decide who the next queen will be. And so this generation, the 3 girls, the 3 queens to be, we have an elementalist who can control the elements. We have a naturalist who can control, nature. She can grow plants and she can she can control animals. And we have the poisoners who got ripped off. So as I've mentioned, the queen is selected amongst the triplets by a fight to the death, basically, that lasts a year, in which they're supposed to kill each other, and the last one standing becomes the queen. And so where we last left our main girls in book 1, they were just about to start with that. The Ascension year is starting, and they're just going to kill each other. And so Disney Princess Mirabella was just completely outraged because best girl Arsinoe tried to kill her, or so she thought, but it was an accident. And emo queen Katharine is just starting to show some teeth after her then boyfriend tried to throw her down her hole to kill her. You with me? Good. Let's move on to book 2. The tides are turning once again, but which sister will be the last one standing? Mirabella's victory seemed assured, but suddenly she faces attacks like never before. Katharine, once known as the weakest, is now rumoured to be the most lethal. Arsinoe is keeping a secret that could be both her undoing and her best chance at victory. Time is running out, and each sister will stop at nothing to win the throne. It's not very true, is it? So book 2 starts when it's officially time to start the sister hunting. Each girl is back in their respective home. Like I've mentioned, Mirabella is absolutely outraged that Arsinoe tried to kill her even though she had just saved her life. So she actually now wants to start fighting for the throne because her sisters are so mean. And Katharine is a bit shaken by her murder attempts at the hands of her, I assume, ex-boyfriend at this point. And so, yeah, Mirabella, in her vengeful state, attempts to kill Arsinoe, who manages to get away with it because she is awesome. And because she, tamed a bear with low magic or something like that. His name is Braddock and he's awesome. And that's it. Meanwhile, Katharine is clearly not the same after that murder attempt, which I've mentioned before. she's a bit meaner, but she's also more confident, more powerful. She's clearly starting to become a threat. There's also something that's a bit darker about her. Like, there's this one moment where she puts on a show about throwing knives around her maid, who is like immobile, and so she's throwing knives all around them. And oh, hey, guess we found our villain for book 2. And now that Katir is gone, she also starts eating poison again. Lots of poison. To the point that even the people who used to poison her before are telling her to tone it down a little bit because people might notice. All in all, yeah, Katharine is being different. Billy's dad decided to punish Billy from not agreeing to court the other 2 queens and to stick with Arsinoe by forcing him to go by Mirabella's side to become a taster and protect her from the poisoner's poisons. So Billy is still a king, he goes, but he's very sad, and he says goodbye to Arsinoe, and it's sad, it's tragic, it's gut-wrenching, and I hate it, and don't ever separate these 2 again. So Billy goes on his not-so-merry way to Mirabella's city, and Joseph goes with him. He says he wants to break things off clearly with Mirabella and tells her that he picks Jules over her, even though they met, 3 times at this point, and they act like it's this great love story and that the separation is horrible and gut-wrenching and tragic, and it's... Anyway, he luckily doesn't stay long after that. I did like all the moments where Billy was calling Mirabella out on her BS. There's especially one scene where they have dinner or lunch or whatever together, and he just blatantly threatens her and tell her that Arsinoe is gonna kick her ass and that she's so much more awesome than Mirabella is, which... Yes! But then the traitor just, still befriends Mirabella, and I guess it turns out not too bad, because then he just tells her that, oh no, actually Arsinoe did not try to kill you, just like she said she hasn't. And she ends up believing him, and then she's just back to her Disney princess ways, which is great. And then I can't remember exactly why, but everyone gets invited to Wolf Spring, which is the naturalist town. So that includes Mirabella and Katharine, and just Katharine throws this idea that they should go on a hunt. Basically, she wants to kill one of her sisters right there and there. And there's this cute little moment where Arsinoe and Billy meet again after being separated for who knows how long, and it's sweet, and then they get separated again, and I hate everything. And then Katharine throws a poison arrow at Arsinoe, and Billy doesn't know she's a poisoner, so he doesn't know she's alive, he thinks she's dead, and I hate everything. Never do this again, never separate these 2 again. No. But luckily, Super Jules comes, saves the day, and Arsinoe, and it's awesome, but my heart still bleeds for poor Billy, who thinks that Arsinoe, his girl, is dead, and he ends up settling and marrying Mirabella instead, and I hate everything. Jules then takes a wounded Arsinoe to the Black Cottage, which is the place where the girls grew up together before they got separated, and they meet basically the woman who raised the girls before they got separated. I think her name was Willa. She decides to heal Arsinoe, and she reveals the reason why there was a little bit of a switcheroo between Katharine and Arsinoe, aka Katharine, who is actually a naturalist, was raised by the poisoners, and Arsinoe, who is a poisoner, was raised by the naturalist. Turns out it's because their mother, the previous queen, decided that Mirabella needed to be the queen. So she sabotaged her other 2 daughters, and just why? At some point during the story, Jules also realizes that she has the war gift. I don't know exactly what it does, but it's cool. Like, she can push people away with her mind, and she can redirect weapons, and it's cool. But she also learns that she is Legion Curse, which means that she has two powers. She has like this war gift and the naturalist gift, and that means she is probably going to become insane. So her war gift is bound, hopefully, to prevent her from going insane. So let's see where that ends up going. Meanwhile, Mirabella decides to challenge Katharine to a duel because she's mad at her for killing Arsinoe now that she discovered that Arsinoe did not, in fact, try to kill her. So she travels to the poisonous city with Billy, and Arsinoe and Jules also decide to go there to help Mirabella win her duel against Katharine because Arsinoe also seems to be under the impression that Mirabella should become the next queen. And I'm sorry, I'm confused. Why? Well, what has she done that makes everyone believe that she is the next chosen queen? Like, the only reason I can think of is because she's the strongest, but she's only the strongest because the previous queen sabotaged her sisters. Anyway, Mirabella arrives to the poisonous city and Katharine organizes a ball. And there's this really cool scene of Katharine taking Mirabella for a dance, and it's very unexpected and it's tense and it's unnerving, and Katharine starts calling her out for having life on easy mode, and yes, Katharine, you tell her! So during the ball, Billy's dad poisons Mirabella's drink to weaken her for her duel with Katharine. Oh yeah, Billy's dad is a noble from the mainland who was plotting with the poisoners in order to put Billy on the throne, so he would marry Katharine once she becomes queen. Sidebar, but the love stories in this book are becoming a bit out of control, like between the two love triangles and Billy, who was supposed to like marry every single one of the sisters at one point. You know, it's getting a bit out of hands. But yeah, anyway, Mirabella is poisoned, and so she can't fight properly against Katharine, who turns out to be quite a threat herself. And so despite Jules trying to discreetly redirect Katharine's poison arrow, it turns out not to be enough, and so Arsinoe ends up having to intervene to save her sister's life. And Mirabella and Arsinoe both decide and declare in front of the whole world that they will not actually kill each other because they love each other, because sister bond, that's amazing. But the rest of the world doesn't seem to think so, and so they are captured. So Mirabella and Arsinoe end up going to prison alongside Jules and Joseph for reasons, I'm sure. Yeah, Katharine is crowned by default. Yay. Katharine is crowned queen, and she decides to marry 1/3 of her own love triangle. More on that later. And he's a guy called Nicholas, and he really wants to consume the marriage. So they do that. Even though she's not that into it, it seems like she's thinking about Pieter more so than she is about her new husband. And the next day she finds him dead in the bed. Turns out she consumed so much poison that she became poison. And she killed him while they were doing the nasty. Also, because she became poison, she's probably not going to be able to bear the next triplet queens. Also, her mother figure Natalia ends up being killed by Billy's dad because of Katharine's decision not to marry Billy, despite Billy's dad going according to plan. Anyway, it's decided that Arsinoe and Mirabella will be executed by Katharine. And so, yeah, Katharine poisons Arsinoe, but, well, of course she survives, and she pretends to die just so they get to escape the guards. And they take Jules and Joseph with them as they escape, and Joseph gets injured, but oh well, whatever. On their way out, they find Billy and a bunch of war-gifted chicks who want to help Jules because she belongs with them because she is war gifted. And so they all escape and they go on a boat to leave the island. And at some point, Mirabella ends up battling a storm, and yeah, okay, it's badass, she gets a point. They manage to escape the island despite the barrier that should keep the queens in, but this time they manage to get out because Katharine is queen, so they assume the island doesn't need them anymore. Joseph dies? Question mark? I ain't mad, I just was not expecting it. But also, Jules leaves? Why? Like, my understanding of Jules was that there were two things she loves, and that's Joseph and Arsinoe, and like Joseph dies, and so she just leaves Arsinoe. Yeah, did not get it. It's probably going to be explained more in book 3. We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, let's move on to the characters. This time what I'll do is I'll just talk about each girl separately, but I'll also kind of talk more about their arc and the characters that orbit around them in the section. So let's start with Katharine. Katharine, what happened to you, girl? I legit did not think she would become the main threat in book 2, but I like it, and I think it makes sense because she was the biggest underdog in book 1. I think I would have preferred if it had been through, like, sheer character growth and not because she's becoming possessed by the ghost of the fallen queens of the past. For context. So in book 1, the hole that Fittir throws her in is actually the Brachia domain, which is where they used to throw the corpses of all the fallen queens in the past. And so when Katharine, a queen, fell into that, the ghost of the previous dead queens just possessed her and decided that she was their chance of actually becoming queen, and so they decided to help her, which is why she's becoming so mean and different. Yeah, I would have preferred if it hadn't been through this artifice, but I assumed that if she is possessed when she does the horrible things she does, it makes it easier at the end to reconnect with her two sisters. I assume that's why. I'm not sure. Also, don't get me wrong, I think it's a cool concept that the fallen queens of the past just come back and just try and get their claim to the throne. It's a cool concept, I like it. I feel like Katharine became the most interesting character in this book. Like, story-wise, her arc was the most gripping. It was really cool to see her becoming more confident, and she's also becoming clever and cunning and just straight up a badass. It's very satisfying also to see her being able to stand her ground against Mirabella despite her never figuring out that she's actually a naturalist. So all she accomplishes is without power, which is pretty cool, even though, dead queens of the past, blah blah blah. But yeah, I thought it was really satisfying to see that, even though obviously she also becomes a bit of a sociopath, which makes it hard to root for her, but like, her evolution is still fascinating, and it's generally chilling to witness her coming from this poor underdog to this horrible, mean person, but who still kicks ass. I also thought that the love triangle involving her was quite interesting and, almost disturbing. Like, she ends up having a suitor who's very interested in her. He's called Nicholas Martel or something. And he's very weird and he's very violent and very, like, unpleasant guy. Pieter comes back and he's still in love with Katharine, and so they have this kind of love triangle, and I was genuinely not sure it would not end up with Pieter and Nicholas killing each other. It kind of upped the stake, actually, because it was a bit of an unnerving relationship that they had, the three of them. So, well played. I did find the reason for Pieter attempting to murder Katharine to be very, very dumb. Like, really, Pieter, you tried to kill her because you didn't want her to be murdered? Do you not realize how dumb this sounds? I know it was more like I'd rather you die mercifully by my own hands rather than those priestesses tearing your limbs off. Could you not think of any other way? Anyway, Catherine ends up marrying Nicholas, and yeah, I ain't mad he's dead because he was a bit creepy. Like, he was always creepy, but the moment where they marry each other and he starts kind of not pressuring her, but being like, oh, when do we consume our marriage? Huh? It was a bit creepy, so, good riddance. But the way he died, though, that was dark. I did not see that coming. And the fact that she becomes poison and kills him without meaning to, and that now she can't bear the triplets, that's intense. And then Natalia dies because of Catherine's decision not to marry Billy, which means Billy's dad was annoyed. The bad things unfolding at the end are direct results of Catherine's decisions. Yeah, it's good. It's interesting. It's well done. It's fascinating, but damn, it's brutal. And yeah, I can't wait to see how it unfolds in book 3. But now let's move on to the star of the show, Arsinoe. She's still bae, she's still the best. Every intrigue she has is the best. Every character that orbits around her is the best, except Joseph. I love Jules. She's great. She's sweet. She's a badass. She's very loving and caring towards Arsinoe. The moment where she saved her from Katharine was absolutely epic. She's brilliant. They have a very moving relationship where you can tell they genuinely care about each other. You can tell they genuinely care about each other, and there's an intense bond between them. And honestly, if Billy wasn't such a king, I'd ship it, but I guess I'll just friendship it instead. And speaking of Billy, he's so sweet. I still love him, like, from the bottom of my heart. I love this guy. He's very sweet. Like, I was so sad when he had to leave her, and they were just like, none of them really wanted for him to go. And he tries to kiss her, and she wants to kiss him back, but then she realizes that she had just eaten poison because she wanted to test out her poisonous power. And she's like, oh shit, I can't kiss him because then I'll kill him. But she can't even tell him that she has poisons on her lips because he doesn't know that she's a poisoner, and so he just thinks that she rejected him, and he's so embarrassed, and my heart bleeds for him. That's how much I like these two. But then he has to leave for Mirabella, and I actually did enjoy every second where he was calling her out on everything. It was very fun and satisfying. But then, obviously, he becomes a traitor and befriends her. But it was always meant to happen. But yeah, back to his romance with Arsinoe. It's so cute. They're so cute. They're so precious. Like, they have these little banters and back and forth. And, like, there's this cute little moment where they see each other again. And he's like, you could have kissed me that day in the meadow. And it's so cute. It's so cute. It's so precious. And then there's this super cute thing at the end where he confesses and he asks her to tell him that she loves him too, and she just goes like, Mainlander, you can't make me say it. And I can't, it's so cute. But yeah, like in book 1, pretty much, despite being my favorite character, I don't have that much to say about Arsinoe, especially compared to Katharine, because she hasn't changed that much in book 2. Like, she started off great, and she's still great. It's not like she doesn't learn anything or she doesn't grow. She does. She just learns that actually maybe she does deserve to live, maybe she should fight back and maybe she should let people in and care about new people in her life and just keep on fighting for the people who are already there and do love her. And I don't know, I just want her to be happy with Billy and Jules. Jules, babe, come back. They can make room for you, I swear. Anyway, let's move on to Mirabella. Just kidding, she gets better. Don't get me wrong, I still spend 2/3 of the book hating on her, especially at the beginning when she's always like, my sisters are so mean. Why? Why are they mean? Because they don't want to die? Your priestesses tried to murder them. What were they supposed to do? Sit there and be pretty and wait for them to kill them? Ugh, and I hate her friends too, Elizabeth and Bree. they're so vapid and lame, and the three of them are just constantly complaining about how mean her sisters are for trying to survive. Like, yeah, okay, there's this moment where one of the maids gets her arm cut off because of the poison sent by Katharine. But still, I think the thing that really gets to me is that this is just the first time she's having it a bit rough. And this is the first time where she feels the threat of death that her sisters had to constantly live under. It just feels like she's behind on everything, and like she's catching up to what her sisters had to go through. They're not mean, you're just finally getting to experience the life they've had. And I know she did not mean for her sisters to live in fear, but it's still hard to connect with her, especially because her arc in book 2 is basically her sisters' backstories. She's just behind, and which is why I found Billy's scene where he calls her out on it so satisfying, and why I was actually rooting for Katharine in the scene where they dance together. And Katharine is also calling her out on it. Not that I'm Team Katharine, obviously, I mean, she's the bad guy. But that scene was honestly great because it just shows how confident and twisted Katharine is. And it puts fear into Mirabella for probably the first time, and I thought it was interesting to see her like that finally. And Katharine just throws everything at her, like, I've lived in fear and you've never known fear, and I'm just like, yeah, I agree. And I love this scene not just because it rips on Mirabella or whatever, but it also just gives me hope that she is going to learn and she is going to grow. But also because she ends up with nothing. The priestesses who were her biggest support have betrayed her and abandoned her. She's leaving the island on a boat, and for the first time, she's the one with nothing, because Arsinoe at least has Billy. Not that dropping her deadweight friends is going to harm her very much. So yeah, I was a bit confused as well with this whole thing of, oh yeah, Mirabella should be the queen. Again, why? Like, haven't seen a single thing yet that would indicate to me that she's the best choice for a queen. Again, the only thing is that she is the strongest, and she is the strongest because the other two were never given a chance by their mother. But yeah, she spends book 1 trying on pretty dresses, and then book 2 whining about how mean her sisters are, and that's not really queen material to me. I know she also shows kindness, but at the risk of being controversial, I think it also takes a bit more to being a queen than just being kind. She doesn't show interest in people outside of the times where she actually just stumbles upon them. She doesn't seem to care about the queendom in general. It's just kind of opportunistic every time. And, you know, I like dresses too, but I still don't think that makes a queen. But maybe that's something that I'll discover more in book 3, or maybe the plan is not at all to have her being the queen. But yeah, that's enough rambling for book 2 for now, so let's wrap this up. Book 2 was great. I honestly really liked it. I did not expect it to go this dark, despite the title being a bit of a giveaway. I can't wait to see how Katharine is going to save her crown. If she is she going to find a way to bear the triplets, or is she going to be the last queen ever, like Fitir suggested? Is she going to have to go after her sisters? What's gonna happen? And also, what's going to happen to Arsinoe and Mirabella? How are they going to fare on the mainland? Are they going to go to Billy's house and live there quietly, peacefully? Anyway, that's it for One Dark Throne. Leave a like if you liked the video, subscribe if you want to see more of my face. Thanks for tuning in. Stay awesome and continue to enjoy stories.